Hey, everybody. Welcome to the first edition of the Inshiterator. What we're going to do on this little recording, broadcast, whatever, I don't know. We'll see. It may turn into a weekly thing. What I want to kind of just do with it is just run through stuff that's kind of happened Douglas County, state, national, whatever, and kind of give my opinion that no one asked for. Kind of help break down the enshittification of the world as we know it right now. But we're going to start with one that happened last night. And you've probably seen this um, with this shithead asshole UFC fighter and what he had to say last night after he won with jackass Joe Rogan there. So here, in case you haven't heard it.
Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America? Ladies and gentlemen.
Just please fuck the fuck off. So my first thought on this, and it's going to be kind of a little bit of a recurring theme in this episode, I think, is the anti-gay, anti-trans thing that's going on in America right now. And it circles around local and what I'm going to go through today. But anyway, it's like, what is their infatuation with Michelle Obama? I don't get it. This has been like their freaking thing that they've been going on about for years. I don't get it. I mean, if I was Michelle Obama, I would be filing a $500 million lawsuit against this asshole and the UFC today. And I'd be putting them out of business. Just like friggin' what's his name from InfoWars was put out of business. This is what needs to happen. This guy needs to be sued into oblivion in the UFC. And then this is sponsored by like Bud Light, who has always been under fire for being supportive of the gay community and the trans community. I'm beyond myself. This shit's just ridiculous that this is even accepted, in mainstream. And then you got, Joe Rogan's face at the end is just as fucking, didn't it make you want to punch him in the face? I mean, come on now. So let's move on. The other thing I want to kind of get into is this week, there was a post on the Living in Parker post on Facebook page. And about the 3 to 5 petition. And I made a couple of little shorts and videos and stuff about the 3 to 5 petition. I 100% support it. I think it's great. And I'm not affiliated with them at all, just to be 100% clear. I mean, I've signed the petition. I've chatted with a few other people when I signed the petition, but I'm not affiliated with them. But I fully support their efforts, and I want to help get the word out. And hey, if we can do that and get more people to sign this, then that's great. So anyway, they did the thing here. The post was on there about being able to sign the petition. And it just goes on about, our current system is at large. Expanding to 5 commissioners creates an opportunity to strengthen the district-based representation. And they go into, it helps ensure every area of the county has a clear vote, connections between residents and their elected officials, bring local perspectives into the countywide decisions, and make representation more responsive and accessible. So, well, the Douglas County Republicans are against this. And I don't think I have their post ready. I should find that so that we can look at their post in this too. But what they're against it, and they don't really have any reason to be against it. So they come up with their BS reasons on their Douglas County Republican page. So anyway, I want to just go through the comments on this because I think it's very It's telling. It's what they, um, kind of do. It's like the way that they're fighting this. So they put the link in here. There's some supportive people. Thanks for sharing. So important. You know. All right. So we'll go into this one. The person just comments on here. That they're commenting for the algorithm. It's uber important, right? So you get into the comments, and it starts with this Allison Ridwell, who I didn't know. I don't know who she is. I didn't have any idea who she was. When this whole thread starts, but turns out she's part of, I don't know, was part of some group, Bad Moms for Deadbeat Dads or something. I don't know. And she's involved in electing people to the school board, right wing people who are, you know, going to be, anti diversity and not an inclusive school district, which I think we're kind of there now when you hear some of the stories of the bullying and anti-trans bullshit that's going on in schools, which all comes from the house, right? There's no questioning that. So anyway, I just want to run through this. So of course she does the why, what problem does this solve? And this is the theme on the Douglas County Republican site, right? There's no problem that this is solving, which is complete and utter bullshit, right? So, um, so the person that wrote this, the Leah, writes back, it removes the concise three-ring circus from controlling the narrative that fits their personal agendas, which is right. Um, and somebody comments that it's the at-large representation. Where nobody's beholden to a district, um, which is, I think, the way it needs to go. I hope this gets on the ballot, and I hope that's the avenue that people choose. There's 5 different districts, because I think that's the only way that people in the county are going to actually be represented, and I think that's the way people need to vote on it. Yeah. So anyway, then she just goes on to strengthen connections between residents. A lot of those very nonpartisan talking points. And then her response back is, totally get that you don't like the 3 people on the BOCC. I have no argument with that. What concerns me is adding almost $500,000 in salary, benefits, and support staff. Blah, blah, blah. So that's the other talking point they have, right? Is it's, first off, it solves no problem. And then the next one is it cost $500,000. Yes, $500,000. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? There's no doubt. But the budget for Douglas County, I don't have it pulled up in front of me, is like $700 million or something. It's ridiculous, right? 500,000 is a drop in the bucket, you know, um, to this cost. The salary, benefits, support staff is bullshit. It's going to cost 500,000 a year. The county can absorb that. It's well worth it for us to have that representation, to have that cost. It's a bullshit thing. It's just something they can bring up to be against, right? Because all of a sudden they're fiscally conservative, right? When it's not something they want to do, but they can shut up, $6 million for a taxi. And I kind of go into that later too, in my responses to Allison. And she does the recall, vote them out, sue them. Well, here's the problem. And I think it's pointed out later in here by somebody's comment back to them. And we'll look at it when we get down there. But recall is not an option. The way that our stuff is set up, it's not an option in the county to recall. Now, when we have district commissioners, then recall would actually be an option for people, but it's not now. So I chimed in and I said, here's my thoughts, a few reasons. And my reasons are the corruption reasons, right? I'm pointing out that. They're pointing out the general nonpartisan reasons for it. But I'm going to go into, hey, here's the crap they're doing that needs to be controlled. Here's why we need more people on the board. So I wrote down commissioners working with a private developer behind closed doors to develop the water pipeline from the San Luis Valley. It would have been a $600 million project. Laura Thomas didn't like it. It started all kinds of drama. If you're not familiar with that, go look up all the crap, the drama on the board when Laura Thomas was on there, because they didn't like her being against it. So I mean, she ended up resigning from the board, but I mean, they were censuring her. They were trying to remove her chair of the board, all kinds of stuff. It was a freaking mess. So then the home rule fiasco, right? Supposedly, somehow, right? Two commissioners can't talk to each other right now, and that would be also solved if we had five. They'd be two commissioners would be allowed to chat with each other in their offices legally, right? Where now they technically aren't supposed to, and you can't tell me they all have offices in the same freaking hallway across from each other. They're not discussing county business. I mean, I don't buy that for a second, right? And then the home rules proves it, right? Because then they have a 10-minute meeting at the Board of County Commissioners, no public comment at all, no discussions, and they approved the whole thing for the home rule. Then they do a special election, cost taxpayers $700,000 for a special election on home rule with no discussion, no public input, no buy-in from the public, nothing. But yeah, we can't afford $500,000 for two new commissioners, right? Because we're fiscally conservative. This is where nothing makes sense. They can't, it's all bullshit. Okay. They were found to violate the open meetings laws by the courts. And they're appealing that decision and want the Colorado Supreme Court to chime in, which is another hundreds of $1,000s worth in outside counsel cost for them to be pushing that. They don't care about money. That's the big thing here. And then they restricted comments at county commissioner meetings now, where the chair decides who gets to speak and who doesn't. Because, he doesn't want the whole meeting to be people in opposition. He wants a mix, right? So he's going to pick a couple of people maybe that are against it so that he can say, oh, they spoke. And then the rest is going to be people in support. And that's bullshit. That's not the way things run, right? And let's see, and then this whole Zebulon project. I want to do a more in-depth kind of thing on that, full video on the Zebulon project. I want to break that down and kind of dig into that, where we're given $100 million worth of certificates of participation. And they did this to go around Tabor, right? This is the party that screams if there's any fee or anything or any effort to go around Tabor for the state to keep money, they literally shit their diapers. But here we are. Oh, we're going to go around Tabor and not get any input from the public. And we're going to be on the hook in the county for $100 million worth of certificates of participation, right? Probably another fiasco. The county will end up losing its ass on this, probably. Because, the developer will run off with money, or who knows what's going to happen here. But it's a private frickin' entity making a frickin' recreation center that they're going to charge people for. It's not going to be free for Douglas County residents to go to. There's going to be costs. But we're putting $100 million of certificates of participation up and being on the hook for this. And then they turned off comments on the Facebook page. So you can't go to the Facebook page of them and see anything and leave a comment, get a response, none of that, because it's turned off. But guess what? El Paso County is turned on. Arapahoe County is turned on. Every county and every city, their comments are turned on their Facebook page so that citizens can leave a comment. Not in Douglas County. Because they don't want anybody talking in a negative way about anything that they're doing or questioning what they're doing. That right there's another red flag. That's another reason we need um, some people with some brains on the Board of County Commission and somebody just say, no, you can't do this. And this is a commissioner decision. This is an administrative decision that was made by them on the county website. Um, so then Allison comes back and then she's like, how does it go from 3 to 5? Strengthen district-based representation, adding 2 more commissioners at a cost again um, does not guarantee it becomes 5 districts. And she says it guarantees more of the same. Have you considered if this passes, the BOCC gets to decide how the additions are made? So she's full of shit. That's not how it fucking works. So she's either she's misleading people or she's freaking ignorant, right? Because she's been involved in politics. She makes several comments that aren't true, right? So this one is not the way it works. It's a freaking vote, right? And then somebody comments, are you looking to replace their agenda with your own? And there's another comment down here that backs this other fear that they have. And then, Kim comes on here, she's part of the either volunteer or involved with the 3 to 5, and she goes on, it's not about any of the current commissioners. And I kind of agree with that. And I make a kind of a comment later that backs that up. But it's not a personal thing necessarily. It's what they're doing, right? So it is about the current commissioners and the fact that they're being corrupt and they're being sleazy. So anyway, Allison comes back, towards me after my comment. And then she's like, then she's like, okay, I get that you don't like it. And she says, that isn't the question. That's absolutely the question, because she said, what problem does it solve? And I laid out, this is the problems that would be solved, right? They're aloof and they're fucking just stupid. So then she goes, how does adding $500,000 in additional taxes solve a problem that could be remedied without permanently expanding government? And then I write her back here and tell her, hey, there's no additional taxes. And then I go into here's how I'm going to find the money. We're spending $6 million, guys, on this free taxi that just drives around Highlands Ranch in Lone Tree. And I think it might serve Parker now, part of it. But there's millions and millions of dollars into a free frickin' taxi. Richest county, one of the richest counties in the United States. And we have a free taxi. Now, if anybody else did this anywhere else, if Polis came out and said, I want to make RTD free, the Douglas County Republican Party and every Republican would be losing their shit, literally, about how it's socialism. And we can't have that. But yet, here we are, right? Um, it, it's just, they're just not legitimate. They really are just not legitimate. But anyway, so I'm like, okay, let's stop the free taxi. People can use Lyft or Uber. And I just saved us $6 million. And we paid for the commissioner. She doesn't respond to me on that ever. I don't think she ever responds back to me. And uh, and then she responds back. Everything surrounding it's political. Um, and accuses other people of not being aware. Uh, that her point's trying to say it's political. Well, yeah, it's political for me because I think they're all corrupt pieces of shit, just like most of the Republican Party seems to be right now. And 30 years ago I was a Republican, right? But it was a different party. These aren't the fiscal conservative, you know, Republicans anymore. They don't exist. The old Republican Party's gone. But anyway, so then I asked her, did you read the petition? And pointed out to her that the voters decide, right? And I'll show you here. She keeps moving the freaking goalpost. Kim gets back in here and is like, Um, says, hey, she's been going to every meeting. She knows what's going on in the county. Then Allison writes me back, okay, this would make the new arenas allowing, I don't know what she means, but makes new arenas allowing teal, the Perion y'all dislike, eligible to run again. Is that what this is really about for you? I don't even know what the hell I write her back asking her what the heck down here, asking her what she's even saying. Like, I don't know what her point even was trying to be here. Teal has said on the news article, or the news story, that he thinks he can run again now because of this. I mean, to me, it's the thing just says you can't have consecutive terms in the Douglas County rules. So he'll be out of office before this would kick in because he's term limited this year. I don't know how the courts would rule on it. That'd be an argument he'd have to go make, I guess, right? That he's allowed to run again because I'm sure it would be challenged by somebody, and the courts can decide. But it, I don't know if I don't know. I didn't look up the actual law. I know the rules on the website basically say you can have 2 consecutive terms and then you can run again in 4 years. But I don't. But that was with the old system. I don't know how this one's going to work on that. But it's all it really ultimately they may let him run again because it's technically about consecutive terms. So this thing whether Teal can run or not, I don't give a shit, right? I expect right now at this point that if we had 5 commissioners, they'd all be Republican. I don't expect a Democrat to, or a progressive or a liberal person running, or an independent to win in the county. But who knows? I mean, only like 30% of the county is registered Republican right now. It's only like 16% Dem, and the rest are all registered independent. So who knows what would happen? But anyway, you know, I just go into, yeah, he might be able to run, right? Um, and then I bring up this. Boulder County has a petition to increase from 3 to 5 commissioners. And I said here, all 3 of them, their commissioners are Democrats up there. Um, they're about in the same space now. They're collecting signatures up there. And I said they opposed um, the measure, and they do. 2 of them, and when I've read a little bit more, I think initially maybe all were not sure. Now 2 of the 3 oppose the measure, and I think there's one county commissioner that supports the 3 to 5 in Boulder County. Um, and this is where I just say, hey, it's it's not just a political issue; it's a power of the people issue, and it is. And also point out to everybody, if you don't know, El Paso, Arapahoe, Weld, Adams, all have 5-member boards of county commissioners. And then if it passes in Boulder, they'd be added, and then us. Um, and the only other super large county that needs to have it is probably like Jefferson. And I think they're way big enough that they should probably expand too for their people. And they're big and spread out. Um, you can't tell me that an at-large person gives a crap about Evergreen as much as they care about Arvada, right? Area. And it just, because that's probably where they're all coming from. But anyway, moving on, you know, people go in, more money spent on that. Um, and then somebody says, 500K per based on their own numbers, likely even more for secondary expenses, blah, 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 and somebody asked, what expenses are you talking about? Kim points out that um, the 500,000 is, 1/10 of 1%, and that they added in the added cost, administrative cost, or anything else that might be on the county with these added people. Um, uh, and then they're like, "You're not bipartisan." And then they're like, "What you're going for is more Democrat representation." And then he's like, "You haven't addressed the concern I've posted," and I don't know who Con Queso Salsa is. It's they want to be, but they didn't post any. I haven't seen them post anything here. But anyway, it's just again, and then David, don't sign this crap thing. They're just planning to gerrymander the districts and elect Democrats. It's like, folks, what are you even talking about? Really? What are you even talking about? And I'm guessing that the county commissioners would probably set the districts. They just have to be equal. So it's going to say there's 5 districts and they're probably the ones that set this. I don't know how that works, but I'm guessing that's who would do it. I, I don't even know what he's talking about. When only 16% of the county is registered Democrat, these people are freaking just crazy. Don, who I think is another 3 to 5 person, goes into, the same thing. It makes some good points in here. Go find this and read through it. There's some good points in here about how when it's at large, people can't afford to run. But if it was by districts, because the at-large seat, you have to campaign in the whole county, right? So it's costing people over $100,000. And if it was smaller, they estimate people could run for 15 to 20,000. So you could run for a smaller district. You're only campaigning in your district. You're only getting support. You're only going door to door in your district. There is no negative to this, folks, other than $500,000, which the government it's just going to absorb right into the budget, and it's not going to do anything. It's not raising taxes. It just makes perfect sense. And then Henry, does the same, expanding to 5 gives Democrats the opportunity to take control of the county and ruin it. It just more crap. All right, enough of that. I just thought that was an interesting post. In thread with kind of lays out what's going on. So yeah, we'll move on to the county. Hold on. All right, so I pulled up the post I was thinking about earlier that I didn't have ready, but I got it. So this was back from May 31st, where they come out. I just want to point out the Douglas County talking points so that when you now compare that to what was just on the other. um, uh, this is the official statement of the Republican, the Douglas County Republican stuff. They say there's no clear problem statement. Sound familiar? No business case, no measurable outcomes. Sound familiar? New cost, no return on investment. Sound familiar? So, they're acting like, oh, if you went in a proposed expansion at a company, they would like, right? It's it, and then they use some AI slop, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute too, because I want to point that out on their website. But anyway, you get laughed out of any boardroom. Nate Marshall, I guess his brother Bob Marshall is behind this. He's like, oh, my brother's behind all this, which he's tried. Bob Marshall's tried to get this as a state law. And the powers that be keep shooting it down. And it's both Democrat and Republican that are shooting this stuff down, right? Like I pointed out in Boulder. That's what makes it not a partisan issue, because it's all about people wanting power. So, it's a lot of the same stuff. It's and then there, here's another person in this comments, first it punches tickets for people launching political careers. Well, okay. How is that a negative, right? You being you living in Larkspur decide, you know what, I don't like they're not representing me and I want to represent Larkspur. And so you decide you want to run for a district as a commissioner. So what? Like people are going to, that the whole, I don't know. It's like these people just, the twist in their mind, I don't get it. And then he's like, second, it's attempt to dilute the conservatives, right? By increasing the chances that the leftists will be able to get elected. Come on, guys. You tell me with a 5-member board, you can't have one person on there that's going to speak against it? I want that. I don't want a 5-member Democrat board. That never happened in this county, but I don't want that. I mean, I like in Boulder, they want other voices. They want other people to be able to speak up. So anyway, I just wanted to point out that post because this is where it's coming from. The stuff that Allison was spewing is all from this. What problem are we solving? See, right there. It's almost maybe she copied pasted that on there, right? Okay, let's move on. So this is a funny one. This I want to go back on this one. This is from June 2nd. So uh, Highlands Ranch decided early this year to cancel their fireworks display. So they're not doing a fireworks display for July 4th. The Republicans are losing their shit. So they do this post. 90% support keeping fireworks. So they're trying to do this independent thing where the Republican Party is going to set this up. We're going to celebrate America, right? And we're going to shoot off some Chinese fireworks, because nothing says America, we love you, like, a couple $100,000 display of supporting the Chinese government in Chinese fireworks, right? Great. So it's a lot of people like, why are we doing this? There's drought, there's fire danger, and all this stuff. And there's a lot that are like, hey, go America, and all this stuff in here too. But right, but so anyway, they're doing this 90% support. Well, this is based on their, and they actually have a giving fuel. So I don't know. They taking money. Yeah, so you can go donate money to the Douglas County Republican Party. It's all a grift. I don't care whether it's Trump or who it is. Look, it's a freaking grift. Give money to us to help save the fourth. Whatever. It just kills me. All right. So, yeah. So anyway, this is all based on their poll. Uh, uh, so they did this, Douglas County Save the Fourth. This is a post from May 21st. And they try to say, this is not about politics. It's about patriotism. So anyway, they did on this Save the Fourth link. They did a poll. Here's the poll. 122. So 137 people out of 400,000 people took this survey. And then they want to be like 90%, which was 89%. 90% of people support this. Okay, you only had 137 people click your freaking survey. And only 122 people. So going by this, 122 people out of 400,000 support your keep the fourth alive. I just kills me, folks. Kills me. All right, let's move on. So this kind of goes along with where we started, and it'll be a recurring theme here. We'll end up coming back. And this one in general, this is quoting it's a Gallup poll, and I find it disturbing. They're just, of course, they're making light of this, but and the reason they're pointing it out is because there are two things on the ballot which everybody needs to vote freaking no for, just because it's not needed. With the male and female participation in school sports and prohibiting surgery on minors, that doesn't happen. There's minors on, they're not doing surgery on people under 18. They might have them on hormones and stuff, but they're having, they're going to therapy, they're being, they're going seeing doctors. It's whatever. Okay, just stupid. Yeah. So anyway, they're pointing this out. The results of the survey, and most Americans now say changing the gender is morally wrong, and voters oppose taxpayer funded gender surgeries. folks. It's not like they're going out there right now and, you know, being like, they're worried about, you know, less than 1%, an absolute minority of people, but they claim to be family values, they claim to be all this stuff, but this is their talking points, right? So I feel for any kid growing up in these households where this is the topic of discussion, is how it's morally wrong. But it is. It's what's disturbing is when you look at the numbers, right? Um, and obviously it's better in the Democrats, but you can go look up this stuff, and I have to assume it's mostly legit. It is um, Gallup, so I'm gonna assume. It went from 46% said it, and I don't like the wording of their questions, morally acceptable. I that okay, I have a problem with that wording because what the fuck does morally acceptable mean, right? But anyway, it's down to 38% say it's morally acceptable to change your gender. Fuck cares. Why do you, I just, again, I don't understand why these people fucking care. But anyway, I mean, and then gay and lesbian relationships being morally accepted. Okay, that was up, 2022 was up to 71%. It's dropping, it's down to 62. And same sex marriage support has dropped, from a high of like 71 to now 65. And I'm sure the evangelicals love this. I don't know the reason for all of this. I know that a lot of people, trans is an issue. I know it's divisive even in the gay community. There are people that don't support this. My view is I don't fucking care. Right? You're trans, you're awesome, you are who you are. Be fucking happy. You know? Be you. I don't understand people's obsession with what other people do with their lives. Really just don't understand it at all. Anyway, we'll circle back to this, I think, in just a minute, maybe one of the next two little things. Okay. Um, so this one I just had up because I want to point out the AI frickin' slop that the Douglas County party does. They go into Chat GPT, make me a thing with a choir and people sitting eating and stuff. It's another grift, right? Hey, come give us money reserve your seat for our 250th celebration and keynote speaker, far right wing nut job, in Parker, July 13th. Yay. And it's just AI slop. That's the only reason I point that out, is just to point out their AI slop. And then this is them advertising, hey, we're going to be at Parker Days in Parker. This is last week, 13th. And look, it's AI slop. That's not their booth. That's not their people. It's not real people. It's community involvement, individual freedom, strong families. All right. Guys, it's fucking sad. It's like, this is your thing. You don't have a good photo of last year at Parker Days where you had your Douglas County booth that you could put up there. All right. So this is the last thing I want to talk about. And it kind of brings everything back together and we kind of go circles here. But they met I guess the 11th of June. And they took the executive committee of the Douglas County Republicans. They declared June a Strong Families Month, recognizing that strong families and strong communities are the foundation for a thriving county. Nobody's anti-strong families. Nobody's anti-family. But they had to do this because, oh my God, it's Gay Pride Month. We can't have Gay Pride Month. We need to be for strong families. And it's their stupid thing that they do. Again, AI slop. But what the fuck? How about strong families and supporting this? He's standing there with his boy and his daughter. Maybe one of them is gay. Maybe one of them is trans. You know what? How about making sure they're supported and loved, right? Strong communities, broader futures built on values, even though whose values, right? And then they posed expanding 3 to 5 members without a demonstrated need, measurable benefits, and a clear return on taxpayer investment. Well, that's been laid out. They don't want to hear that stuff, you know? And then they're like, limited government. So now they're limited government. All right. Eh, They're not limited government, right? The sheriff's office now has what, 5 um, senior staff where they used, in a place where they used to have, 3. The whole county is just big government. They don't want limited government. They just want their own little clique to control things. They don't want to be stuff. And you go see, I did a thing with Peel where he's like, I'd much rather be convincing one person to go along with me than 2, and that's what his objection to the 3 to 5 is. Oh my God, I don't have to just convince one numbnut that we handpick in a countywide thing. Because let's face it, you're not going to run countywide and get support of the Republican Party unless you're a yes man. You can run in a district because you could run grassroots if it was all districts, but you're not going to do that now. They're just about their control. Fiscal responsibility. Come on now, $500,000. You spent $6 million on a taxi, all kinds of waste. You spent $700,000 on a special election that you crammed through, right? It's whatever. And transparency and accountability from a county commission that's limiting public comment and not, on at meetings and on Facebook. They're being found to have violated open meetings laws. But yeah, they're all about transparency and accountability. Complete freaking bullshit. Anyway, that's my rant today. Went on a little bit longer than I thought. So if anybody's made it this far, thank you. Please follow, subscribe. Appreciate your support. I'm just trying to do my part to shine some light on some of this bullshit that's going on and kind of laugh about it. That's all we can do, right? So anyway, hope everybody's having a great day, and we will see you next time. Take care.